Derek Overstreet, founder of the New Millennium Group. We're a financial planning firm. We have advisors standing by right now to take your call. 888-999-6370. The reason you're going to want to call is we're going to help you retire 3 to 5 years before you thought possible. The way we do this is by putting together a step-by-step plan. So if you're one of those people listening and you'd like a plan in writing, give us a call at 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370, or go to utahsfinancialplanner.com.
Some of the most meaningful jewelry you own isn't new. It's inherited. A ring from a grandmother, a necklace full of memories, but no longer your style. Duke's Jewelers reimagines family heirlooms into custom pieces you'll actually wear and love. Working one-on-one, Duke's designers honor the original story while creating something fresh and modern. Don't let meaningful jewelry sit unused. Let it live on beautifully. Visit Duke's Jewelers in Springville or online at dukesjewelers.com, where old stories become new treasures.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. We're joined once again by Ken Pomeroy from KenPom.com. Ken, good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen.
For the people who know you, do you just get bombarded with Arizona or Michigan? Who's it going to be? Arizona or Michigan? What's going to happen? Arizona or Michigan?
Yeah, basically. Feels like, feels like we got, the national championship game on Saturday night, and not as much interest in the other games, certainly. And then whatever happens, whatever we get on Monday, it feels like people think it's going to be a foregone conclusion that the winner of Arizona, Michigan is going to win the game on Monday. And it's not exactly the case.
No, you never really know for sure, obviously. But what do you see out of that Arizona-Michigan game?
It's gonna be awesome. I mean, there's not, you think about like strengths and weaknesses for teams, and typically you can look at any team, no matter how good they are, and it's like, hey, there's the weakness, there's the strength. But Michigan and Arizona are basically like full of strengths, and their weaknesses are just like other strengths that are slightly weaker. I mean, we're obviously, I guess the one thing is, obviously Arizona doesn't take a lot of threes. That is something everybody should understand by now. Their last 2 games have been played against very soft, relative to tournament level performance, really soft interior defenses in Purdue and Arkansas. And they're not going to have that benefit against Michigan. I mean, they're going to have to earn their points. In particular, so Michigan has like the 3rd best 2-point defense in the country, which, they're playing Purdue and Arkansas are in like the 200s. So quite a difference there. Michigan doesn't foul that much, which is something that Arizona kind of depends on. So from the offensive side, it'll be a little more challenging for Arizona than it has been. But that said, like, Arizona's pretty darn good. So it's not like they're going to struggle in this situation. It's just not going to be quite as easy as it has been. So to me, I'm really interested to see how that side works out for them. And then can Arizona slow down Michigan, which, teams have slowed down Michigan this year. Not necessarily lately, but it has happened. So they're going to need to do that because Michigan, 3rd best 2-point defense, 2nd best 2-point offense. But Arizona has the 2nd best 2-point defense. So so they do have some ways to at least defend Michigan in the paint. And, again, it'll be pretty vital for them to have success in doing that.
As BYU fans think, what do the Cougars have to do? Who do they have to model themselves after to build what they want to build and get where they want to get? And you look at these Arizona and Michigan teams, and Michigan's 1 in defense, Arizona's 2, and then at the offense end of the floor, Arizona's 4 and Michigan's 5 in offensive rating. So the answer then is be awesome at everything?
Yeah, the answer is be awesome at everything. That's all you have to do. Boom. You're winning national titles. I think what is also interesting just in terms of roster construction is that, neither team really is dependent on one player. Axel Lendeborg gets a lot of credit for Michigan, and deservedly so. Like, he's a really good player, but you look at like his offensive usage and it's 21%, which, the average player is 20%, and there's 5 players on the floor, so 20% is your average player. So he's basically like got average usage, and that's true for like Arizona as well. Like, they're not dependent on one guy. There's 4 or 5 or 6 guys that can all contribute offensively. Arizona in particular is feeling like a team that kind of like those Villanova teams that Jay Wright had before he retired, where you come into the tournament and be like, yeah, they don't really have that much NBA talent. And then all of a sudden you look 5 years later and like 6 guys from the roster are in the NBA. That's really the contrast with BYU. It's like you can go the path of trying to get the stud and giving him the ball on 35% of the possessions, and that will take you to certain places, but it's not really possible to contend for national titles if that's now the goal of BYU. It's not possible to contend for national titles under that paradigm.
And all the stuff that you do, KennyPalm.com, I'm wondering, do you ever just look at and say, well, this coach is better than that coach, so maybe that can skew some of the stuff that you're trying to put out?
Who are we possibly referring to here? Brad Underwood? No, not Brad Underwood. Probably Danny Hurley? We going Danny Hurley?
Well, whoever it might be, if you want to go Underwood in this case. Whoever, whatever, whenever. Yeah. It doesn't have to necessarily be this year.
Yeah. All right. Well, I was trying to maybe read too much into your question there, because I think in the other game, people are like, there's like universal surprise among the public that Illinois is favored in that game, and I think some of it rests on the coaching matchup. And obviously, like, UConn has a history of amazing tournament success relative to regular season success, so people maybe peg that on the coach. But Brad Underwood's been a pretty amazing coach in his own right. So I guess to answer your question, coaching is hard to measure, and I'm probably a little more skeptical than most that at this point in the season, coaching has a major difference. Just because you're kind of, self-selecting at this point. Like the teams that get this far, presumably they're doing it in part because their coach and coaching staff, they know what they're doing. I think before the season, it's a little different. There's certainly you can find guys who like ultimately, like, your season performance is the talent you bring in, which is the most important thing, and then how well a coach can mold that group into a functioning team and get the most out of it. And so there definitely are coaches that you see time and time again that have advantages in the latter part, and there's coaches that have advantages in the former part, and the best coaches are the ones that can do both. But at this point in the season, I don't think it's something that's too big a deal.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. You chose to hit play on this podcast today. Smart choice. Progressive loves to help people make smart choices. That's why they offer a tool called Auto Quote Explorer that allows you to compare your Progressive car insurance quote with rates from other companies. So you save time on the research and can enjoy savings when you choose the best rate for you. Give it a try after this episode at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
I've got good news and bad news. Here's the bad news. Most protein bars are packed with sugar and unpronounceable ingredients. The good news? There's a better option. I'm Will, and I created IQ Bar plant protein bars to empower doers like you with clean, delicious, low-sugar brain and body fuel. IQ bars are packed with 12 grams of protein, brain nutrients like magnesium and lion's mane, and zero weird stuff. And right now, you can get 20% off all IQ Bar products, plus free shipping. Try our delicious IQ Bar sampler pack with 7 plant protein bars, 4 hydration mixes, and 4 enhanced coffee sticks. Clean ingredients, amazing taste, and you'll love how you feel. Refuel smarter, hydrate harder, Caffeinate larger with IQ Bar.
Go to eatiqbar.com and enter code BAR20 to get 20% off all IQ Bar products plus free shipping. Again, go to eatiqbar.com and enter code BAR20.
I sold my car in Carvana last night.
Well, that's cool.
No, you don't understand. It went perfectly. Real offer, down to the penny. They're picking it up tomorrow. Nothing went wrong.
So, what's the problem?
That is the problem. Nothing in my life goes as smoothly. I'm waiting for the catch.
Maybe there's no catch.
That's exactly what a catch would want me to think.
Wow, you need to relax.
I need to knock on wood. Do we have wood? Is this table wood?
I think it's laminate.
Okay, yeah, that's good. That's close enough.
Car selling without a catch. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.
I'm curious with the way Duke has gone out in the tournament the last couple of years, and they have done a great job of getting multiple young pros in the top of the class, and they play a lot of freshmen, and there are coaches who will say, get old, stay old, and there's a lot of them, but maybe they don't have access to those elite freshmen, so they don't have to make the decision Duke makes. Do you think the fact that they've blown these big leads in they've lost 4 games going back to last year's tournament, and they've blown double-digit leads in all of them, do you attribute that to youth, or is that attributed to something else, or is that just the nature of college basketball and crazy things happen?
Yeah, I think it's crazy things happen and youth, like some mix of that. The youth, it's kind of what makes college basketball great. I don't recall seeing a play like well, I shouldn't say that. I was going to say I don't recall seeing a play like that, in a crucial NBA game. But I guess there's we can fall back on J.R. Smith or whatever a few years ago, and people were replaying the I don't know what it is now, 25-year-old Michael Ruffin highlight where he tosses the ball in the air before the game is over, and it's like Wizards Raptors or something. The Raptors won that game. It comes down and the Raptors sink a 3 to win the game, or send it to overtime or something. But for the most part, you don't see what happened at the end of that Kentucky or Connecticut Duke game happen, and with more experienced players, I guess, is the general statement there. I mean, Duke was for whatever reason trying to advance the ball in a situation where they didn't really need to advance the ball, and you would think a more experienced team would not do that. So yeah, I think there's a little bit of the youth factor involved there. That's part of the deal you make. And really, at this point, I mean, how many teams are winning with this kind of Duke system of going after the elite freshmen and pairing them up with, previous classes of elite freshmen that didn't quite turn out to be so elite and stuck around, like the Caleb Fosters and the Isaiah Evans that they had. It seems like Duke's the only one. I mean, Calipari's still trying to do it at Arkansas and having some success, but not nearly as much as John Shire's had. So I don't know. I do think at some point, I mean, this is, it's going to be the narrative until Duke gets over the hump. But the next 5 years, Duke's going to get over the hump if they stay with this approach. I mean, they have Final Four national championship level teams, and I don't think John Shire is a bad coach by any means. I think he's quite good, but obviously snake bitten in these end of game situations in ways that makes you question his ability in those situations. But for the most part, I think it is part of the deal. You just have young, inexperienced players, and they're going to occasionally do things like that. And on top of that, occasionally those things are going to come back to haunt you. But sometimes they aren't going to come back to haunt you. Sometimes they get away with it, and sometimes you're just going to win games by 15 or 20 points, which is probably what Duke should have done in that game, given how things were going for the first 30 minutes of it.
All right, Ken, if DJ had asked you the question about the coaches, would you have read more into it? Was it just the fact that I asked the question and you don't really trust me?
No, it's actually the opposite, PK. Like, I just think you're a deeper thinker, and there's multiple levels to your questions that I need to consider, and so that's what I meant by that.
I can see that.
Yeah, exactly.
That was so good it totally derailed me. I had another question.
You jumped. Simple question.
You jumped. Oh, you totally derailed me with that.
Man.
All right, here's one for you, Ken.
So skeptical, Ken, and I view you as pure.
That's pure. Okay, great. That's the first time I heard that.
Yeah, I know. Just take it and run with it,
Yeah.
Ken. What the heck? All right.
Yeah.
In the esteemed vision of KenPom.com, obviously the Big Ten has got the best tournament record, 6 teams into the Sweet 16, 2 into the Final Four, blah, blah, blah. They're the kings this year, but it was the SEC who did it last year, and I think 3 years ago was Big 12. Do you view one of these leagues as about to pull away, or is this a little crown best conference in college basketball that's just going to get passed around for this foreseeable future, given the nature of the sport and guys coming and going every year?
Yeah, I think it's like pretty hard to predict from year to year. I mean, what we have is, so like in college football, you think of the Power Four. In college basketball, it's really the Power Five when you throw in the Big East. Like the Big East is not a mid-major, just put it that way. So, we have a Power Five, but then within the Power Five, we also have this own kind of structure that is fairly predictable in that the 3 conferences you mentioned are clearly better than the ACC and the Big East. And, we saw this start to happen last year and continued to this season. And so, I don't know that there's necessarily any picking among those 3. There's any obvious top dog going forward. Maybe, slight advantage to the SEC Big Ten over the Big 12 just due to, resources, TV money, whatnot. So maybe slight advantage there. But overall, like the safest thing to say is that those 3 conferences are going to be the best leagues in the sport for the foreseeable future, which that part has been unusual. I mean, the Big 12 was the top dog in my ratings for, I don't know, like a decade leading up to this period. But prior to that, you look in history, and some years, like the ACC would be number 1, or the SEC would have a couple of nice years. The Big East would be there. And I think the days of the ACC and the Big East are probably gone. The ACC has had to expand into, with teams that aren't necessarily ever going to be basketball powers, whereas at least the Big 12 and the SEC and the Big 10 have expanded into teams that, can be basketball powers like Arizona in the Big 12 or UCLA in the Big 10 or whatever. So, I think that's the direction we're headed.
Do you think that have we seen maybe a restoration of the big man, the level of importance of the big man in the college game?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, there's definitely still room for the guy who doesn't shoot threes and plays maybe a more traditional, I don't know if post-up game is the right word, but certainly going through the post or going through the paint is certainly more possible than, I don't know, than it has been, but it's still possible. Let's put it that way. I mean, that, the trend in college has been a little behind the trend in the NBA just due to like talent availability, but compared to 10, 15 years ago, like most teams have 4s and 5s that have some sort of perimeter games. But it's not necessary, and we've seen teams over the years, and including this year, have success in terms of guys who cannot necessarily shoot the 3 or don't shoot it a lot, have success. And so, you see that even with these Arizona, Michigan, like UConn. I mean, all these like Terrace Reed at UConn. I mean, he's more of a traditional bruising big man. Moses Malone vibes there for the old heads out there. Guy that rebounds and gets buckets at the rim. Michigan has a Day Mara who is, I mean, a pretty creative player when it comes down to it. I mean, he's definitely like, he's not a guy who shoots threes, but he is a guy who can pass like a point guard. So in that sense, he is skilled. And I think that's sort of the key, is that these modern big men, even those who can't shoot, are just tremendously more skilled than big men of 25 years ago. And that's why I wave the banner for the game being, better than it's ever been. There's just so much more skill on the court than there used to be.
Utah State has a new basketball coach. What was your opinion of that hire? What was your surprise level that he left Northern Iowa after 2.5 decades?
Yeah, there was some surprise there. I did not see that name coming. Man, it's an interesting hire because on the one hand, yeah, sure, like fits the MO, what Utah State has done, going after mid-major head coaches. On the other hand, they've, skewed towards more up-and-coming head coaches, and now we're going with, like, an established guy who, like, he's had a fine track record at Northern Iowa, but it hasn't been, like, off the charts, I think, like, 5 tournament appearances in 20 years. And, like, it's at Northern Iowa. You're not going to go to the tournament every year. But had some ups and downs there. Obviously got to the tournament this year in a somewhat surprise run in their conference tournament. But yeah, I'm of all their hires, I feel like this is the one I'm least excited about. It's not to say it won't work out. He's obviously been successful. It's just he hasn't been that successful, guys, if I'm being honest. So I am slightly concerned about how this might turn out. On top of that, at least this past season, played at a very slow pace. So it's like not necessarily the most interesting style. It's going to be, a lot of low-scoring games up there at Logan next season. So if you're going to play that style, you better have some success. Otherwise, it could be a little rough. So I don't know. I'm sounding a little pessimistic here, but I was surprised they went in that direction.
Ken, we will leave it right there. We appreciate it as always. So who do you have winning it all just on the way out the door?
I'm gonna go Michigan. I'd love to spring some sort of Cinderella pick. I got a little soft spot for Illinois. So nobody's really thinking about them, and I do think it'll be a Michigan-Illinois final, a celebration of the Big Ten. Yeah, it's a celebration of the Big Ten ending its 26-year streak without winning a title, doing so in the heart of Big Ten country in Indianapolis. That's what I foresee, and we'll see how it goes. But really, should be 2 excellent games on Saturday, 2 competitive games. So hopefully a fitting conclusion to a season where we've had a bunch of really good teams at the top of college basketball.
Ken, we appreciate the time as always. Enjoy the Final Four. Thanks for joining us.
All right, thanks for having me on, guys. Appreciate it.
He's Ken Pomeroy. The website is kenpom.com, one of the top college basketball websites, and he's had Arizona and Michigan at or near the top all year long, and here they are playing in the national semifinals in there. 2 of the top 5 offensively, and he's got them as 1 and 2 defensively. So this is it. Best on best. No excuses, PK. Let's go.
Go Wolverines.
There you go. All right, DJ PK, when we come back, everything you missed in this show, we will get you up to date. A surprising result from the Sacramento Kings. New hope for the Utah Jazz in the race to the bottom. We'll get to that next. Stay with us.
Hey, sweetie, your mother showed me this Carvana thing for selling the car. I'm going to give it a try. Wish me luck. Me again. I put in the license plate. It gave me an offer. Unbelievable. Okay, I accepted the offer. They're picking it up Tuesday from the driveway. I haven't even left my chair. It's done. The car is gone. I'm holding a check. Anyway, Carvana, give it a whirl. Love ya.
So good, you'll want to leave a voicemail about it. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.